Hey guys, I've gotten a lot of questions about why I bought a property in Ukraine, and this is kind of an FAQ video to answer everything about the buying process, why I chose Ukraine, why I chose Kiev versus buying a place in Sri Lanka or in Thailand or in the US or Portugal, Bansko, anywhere else in the world, as well as some questions about kind of the process of buying it.
We've been walking out of time, out of time. Been so long since I called you mine, called you mine, called you mine.
Kind of the process of buying it and things like that. So anyways, this is my Airbnb that I'm staying at in Kyiv, which is actually the second city in Ukraine. It's kind of a student city. I lived here for 2 months, 2 years ago, and I came to visit some friends. Ingen and Lena are here, and restaurants were open until lockdown, but that's another story. But anyways, this is where I'm staying. This was only like $35 a night. It's right in the city center by the mirror stream and this cathedral, and it's beautiful. So this is one of the things I like about Ukraine is there's a lot of different kind of big cities. In places like Sri Lanka, there's Colombo's kind of big city. I guess Kandy would be one, but I don't want to live in Kandy. And Colombo, honestly, is just too busy for me, and you can't walk around anywhere. The things I really value in life is one is being able to walk outside and just wander around and have nobody bother me, and be able to like hop in, like walk into coffee shops or restaurants, and it's like a wanderability. Weather-wise, that's a big question. People saying, Johnny, you're crazy for moving to Ukraine where it's freezing. It's minus 20 in the winter. Guess what? As a digital nomad, as being location independent, I am so fortunate and blessed to have created a lifestyle where I don't need to be here in the winter. My plan is to stay here 6 months or less a year, so it doesn't trigger this tax base, because I have to pay tax in the US anyways. It's another topic. But I'm gonna stay here for less than 6 months a year, and I'm just gonna stay for the warm months. So I'll probably be here from May, June, July, August, September. And when it gets cold, I'm gonna go to Thailand, maybe back to Sri Lanka to visit, maybe to Hawaii, who knows? I will go somewhere else. So weather-wise, it's actually perfect here. I love the weather in Ukraine. I think it's the best weather in the world during the summer. Probably the worst weather in the world in the winter because it's so cold. But in the summer, it's dry. It's like not hot, but it's sunny. Like it never goes over 30 degrees or 85 Fahrenheit. So you don't get sweaty and humid. Like for example, in Thailand, I love Sri Lanka, but it's just too hot. You can't walk around unless you're on the beach. And when you're on the beach, you don't have the city, and you don't have, great restaurants. You have beach restaurants, which are nice, but you don't have like the city restaurants. You don't have the really nice bars. And honestly, the beach is amazing. I lived on little islands for years and years, but enough is enough. Like I can't spend my whole life on a beach. I like big cities. That's just kind of who I am. And Kiev is like New York. It's like London. It's like Los Angeles or San Francisco. And I lived in all these cities, so I know what it's like. And Kiev is very similar. But I actually prefer the Ukrainian culture. I don't know what it is. I've always kind of had this kinship with Ukrainian culture. Maybe it's because they're very real. They've had real problems. They've had struggles in their life and identify with it. Nobody's entitled. And people are very smart here. Like the IT scene is really big here. There's a lot of growth in both culture, economy, and tech. And walking around, it actually reminds me of San Francisco or Austin, where there's 4 different ride-hailing apps. There's Uber, there's Bolt, there's Ukulon, there's Yandex, and maybe another one. There's all these kind of scooters everywhere that you can rent. There's all these food delivery apps. There's all this stuff. There's mobile payments that are really easy. You never have to use cash. You can use your phone to pay everywhere, literally everywhere. And it's just so easy. The Wi-Fi works so good. The 4G works so good. And it's just a very, very kind of futuristic city in this old, pre-Soviet, pre-Sarsky architecture. And I love this dichotomy. I love this, the juxtaposition of the old and the new. And it just makes me happy. Like, I really love it. So to answer a couple questions, The first big question is, Johnny, why buy property at all? You've been location independent, you have no responsibilities. You wrote a blog post saying why renting is actually not throwing money down the drain. You're making more money with less responsibilities through index funds and stocks and and other different investments. So why even buy property? The answer is it's a lifestyle investment, where first, because of all the travel restrictions in 2020 and even 2021, this US passport, as great as it is, hasn't been enough. I am so blessed that my parents moved to the US before I was born. So I have this great passport that just allows me to travel, really anywhere in the world. And that's why for the last 12 years that I've been traveling full time, I never felt the need to have anything else. But in 2020 and 2021, we've noticed that this is not as powerful as it used to be with all these different restrictions. So I want to have a permanent residency, which is basically a green card that allows me to live in another country. And I actually had talked to people about getting one in Sri Lanka and buying property there. That's why I was looking at property there. I mean, some people think I was just doing it for my YouTube channel, but no, really, I was looking at property to buy there. And the reason why I didn't, it was complicated to own property there. As a foreigner, we can either only own a condo, but there wasn't, there was a couple beachfront condos in kind of areas that I didn't want to live in, or in Colombo. And honestly, Colombo on paper is great. There's great restaurants. There's, Uber and ride-hailing apps, but the city itself is just not walkable. If you've ever tried to walk in Colombo, especially as a foreigner, you just get bothered all the time. Like every minute, a tuk-tuk driver will literally drive right in front of you and cut you off and sometimes almost hit you and say, tuk-tuk, tuk-tuk, and they're just bothering you. And it drives me crazy. I just want to walk and enjoy my life. I'm going to a restaurant 2 blocks away. I don't want to get bothered every 2 minutes. And if you don't understand why it's annoying, I can't help you guys, right? So I just can't live in Colombo because of that, to be honest. And it sounds ridiculous, but I love being able to just walk and not be bothered. I want to be able to just enjoy my life. And I don't think that's too much to ask for, right? It's also a bit too hot and muggy because of the humidity to walk. And I don't want to own a car. I'm a minimalist at heart. That's why I travel so light with just carry-on luggage. That's why I try not to own too much stuff. And by having, the ability to be able to live and move locations depending on the season, Ukraine is a great place. So I wanted to get permanent residency somewhere, and Ukraine has one of the cheapest programs. For $100,000 investment, I can get a green card. It's a bit complicated. I'll explain it maybe in the future if anyone's interested. But basically, I open a company, transfer 100,000 US, which is already in the process, which is also complicated. Transfer money into Ukraine, have that company buy a piece of property or spend it somehow into the Ukrainian economy, and then that allows me to apply for permanent residency. So it's one of the cheapest programs in the world. Most other countries, it'll cost kind of anywhere between $250,000 like in Turkey, or $500,000 in Portugal, or I think even more in places like Barcelona or in Spain. So this is one of the best programs. Unfortunately, it doesn't get me a second passport, but I don't really need it for travel, because in Ukraine, they don't allow dual citizenship. So I'll never become a Ukrainian citizen, but having this green card will allow me to come as a permanent resident whenever I want and stay as long as I want. All right, so next big question is, why not Chiang Mai, Thailand? Why not, Bansko, Bulgaria, where you can get a place for, 11,000 euro? Why not the US? Why not Moscow? Why not these other places? And first, it's lifestyle. I actually want to be here. I like Kiev. This is my 3rd year coming. But secondly, I see actual income potential here, not only from renting it out, but also from the future kind of growth. It's funny that price is relative. Some people look at it and they think 145,000 US dollars. That's X amount in some other currency, 4 million hryvnia, or, however million lira, or however many rupees, Johnny, that's so expensive. And you're right, it's not a small amount of money, but it's relative. A condo this size in any major city, any capital city, especially in the rest of Europe or even in Russia, it's usually a lot more expensive. In Lisbon, in Barcelona, in in Germany somewhere, in New York, in San Francisco, in London, in St. Petersburg, in Moscow, it's all 4 times the price. So it's relative. Yes, there are places that are way cheaper in the world. Thailand, Turkey, and Sri Lanka, all these places are much cheaper, but I don't see the value actually going up that much in the future. Mainly because in a lot of places like Saigon, for example, or in Antalya in south of Turkey, they just keep building. Like in Thailand too, they just keep building new condos because there's not any regulation on zoning or permits. So every couple of months, there's a brand new building getting built up in your neighborhood. And first, it kind of adds, to me, it makes the city kind of not ugly, but, modern. I like this old cultural city centers. And it's kind of hard to build in the city center of Kiev. So it's going to remain kind of relatively the same. Most of the new construction is on the outskirts. And I feel like the more people that move to affordable housing on the outskirts, the more traffic is going to be to get into the city center, which means the city center is going to be more and more desirable to be in, so you don't have to fight this traffic. Because the more people that live in the outskirts, and then there's already, I think it's 3 or 4 million people living in Kiev, the more people that move to the outskirts, the more dense the population becomes, the more restaurants open, the more bars open, the more cafes, co-working spaces, business centers open. And there's only so much space in the city center, especially in these cultural kind of heritage buildings that people can't build in. So I do think the prices are going to keep going up. In Moscow, places are already 4 times the price, especially if you want to be like in the heart of the center. So for anyone who thinks the price is too high, or you think you can get a place for $50,000 in Kiev, either you haven't looked since 2015, maybe you haven't looked really seriously at all, or you're looking at the outskirts 20 minutes away. That's kind of the fact. So the other reason is a lifestyle choice, where in Chiang Mai or in Saigon, these places, it's really easy to find a monthly rental, a nice place for a good price. In Kiev, where I like to come every summer, it's really hard to find a decent place. I kind of got lucky with this apartment. I think I only found this because it's kind of locked down right now. There's not that many travelers. But a place like this, right in the center, I'm kind of like right in the middle of Kharkiv, is normally expensive and hard to find. They get booked really far in advance. And I don't like to book 2 months in advance, especially with Airbnb, which is the only choice for short-term rentals, unless you're doing like daily rent. And it's just there's no options. So it's just a headache for me to go every year and look for a place. That'd be nice to have my own place where I know I like the location, I know I like the furnishings, I know I like the decorations. I can even have a small owner's closet and leave some of my things there. And be able to just block off that month or two when I'm back, or even 6 months, and not rent it out for that time. So it is a big lifestyle choice. So it's me wanting to live there, me wanting a place, and also me wanting to get permanent residency. And I might even end up buying a second place just for rental or cash flow, who knows. So what about the risks and the impending war with Russia on the border? Here's the thing, is Ukraine has always been at some kind of conflict. And since 2014, things have been unstable with Russia. And every 6 months, they do something to flex their power. And honestly, it's complicated. And I'm actually glad that I don't speak good enough Russian or Ukrainian that I understand it, because it just doesn't affect my life. And I guarantee you that in Kiev or in Kharkiv, anywhere basically outside of that immediate Donetsk area, it just doesn't affect your life. People don't even talk about it. People go on, they live a normal life. And worst comes to worst, Russia somehow annexes all of Ukraine, and then Kiev becomes the 3rd big city in Ukraine. Guess what? The prices I'll still own the property, and prices in Ukraine, in Russia, are so much higher. In Moscow and St. Petersburg, it'll probably just raise the price. But honestly, that's not going to happen. Like, Ukraine is its own sovereign nation, its own country, and it has the backing of the US and all these other, countries that aren't going to allow Russia to take over more than just that area. And I'm not worried, to be honest. Like, if anything, it's a good time for me to buy because prices are probably going to be a bit lower than if everything was going well. And also, there's just not that much competition for, renovations. If the currency here gets worse, my US dollar gets stronger and my spending power is better. So honestly, I'm not worried about the political instability, but I also know it's a risk. And that's why I cannot recommend most people move to Ukraine, and definitely don't buy property here. It's very easy to get scammed here. I wrote a whole blog post which goes into detail on why I bought property in Ukraine and why you shouldn't. So if you somehow just have like this cultural connection to Ukraine and you want to take the risk of buying a place, then it's a good idea, especially if you triple check and hire a lawyer to double check everything. But honestly, for most people, it's not a good idea. And even for me, I know it's a huge risk, but it's something I'm willing to take. I'm very fortunate and blessed that I've made enough money in the last 12 years as an entrepreneur, and I've invested well and smartly. If you can learn more, listen to Invest Like a Boss, my podcast I co-host, that this isn't all my money. I have, this is a percentage of my total net worth. So even if everything goes bad, knock on wood, I'll survive. But it is a risk. I do know that. Anyways, thanks for your concern. I hope this answered most of your questions. If not, leave a comment below. I'm happy to answer them there. But read the blog post because it goes into a lot more detail. But this is why I bought property in Kiev, Ukraine. It is a lifestyle choice to get permanent residency, to have a hedge against the prices in Ukraine going up, which I do think they will, because I do like living here and I want to come back every summer. And if rent prices keep going up as fast as they do, because inflation here is very high, then I want to be able to hedge it and have my cost of living still be low by owning a place or being able to rent it out. And yeah, that's really it. I mean, it doesn't mean that I don't appreciate my time. I didn't appreciate my time living in Thailand or Sri Lanka. I have a special place in my heart for these countries and I really loved it, but it's a new chapter in my life. I want to live in a big city. I want to go to really nice restaurants and not be sweating by the time I get there. I want to be able to walk. I want to be able to walk for 20, 30, 40 minutes in the city and not have to get hassled by anyone. And it's just, it's just my life. It's a lifestyle choice. So I know not everyone's going to agree with it, but if you have any questions, ask them below. I'm happy to answer them. And keep tuned for some more content from here in Ukraine. Let me know what you want to see as well. And I will definitely keep everyone updated on the property. It's under kind of like what escrow is in the US, where I've transferred some of the money and the rest of it is kind of waiting there for the paperwork to be done. Hopefully it'll be done in the next month or two, but who knows how long it's going to take, especially with this government lockdown. See you guys in the next video. Bye, guys. By the way, here's the tour of the rest of my Airbnb. It's just a studio apartment, actually, but it's right in the city center. It's a 1 minute walk away from Mirror Stream, which is kind of the main part. Nice big windows, flat screen TV, small little kitchen. And here's actually the secret hidden bathroom behind this mirror. There's also a balcony just here. But yeah, nice place. And washing machine, which every place in Ukraine has a washing machine. And it's not that places in Sri Lanka don't have washing machines. It's the 10 places I've lived in didn't have one. So as far as I'm concerned, most places in Sri Lanka don't have a washing machine. Unless you live in maybe Colombo or if you have servants or something, but that's not me. I was just renting villas, renting houses. There were no washing machines.